right, you guys, so let's get back. And yeah, we'll have three people tell us exactly what they saw, and hold off on your ideas and thoughts. Just if you can, three people can volunteer to do the three pieces to tell others who didn't see it what it was that you saw, but um, just hold off on your thoughts until we kind of go, and then have everyone have a turn. All right, so let's see. So 1, 2, 3. So, and I'll just call on you guys if. Oh, okay, so Shijuan, do you want to do the first one for us?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. All right. The TED Talk. I was really shocked about some data it posted, especially um, about the animal extinction that maybe in this century, 20 to 50% of the species would maybe extinct in this century, and that really shocked me because I don't feel. And if in this bit, I could imagine how many species would go, and I don't, I don't quite want my sons or my grandchildren to say, "Hi, father, have you ever seen those animals before?" And that is because of you. You are consuming everything and like that. And I was really shocked about a policy. I don't know if this policy is just in America, that the government like let the citizens pay for a total of 40 to 50 billion dollars for the industries that they get the fossil fuels, and that is a way to encourage the whole industry. And I found it really really not good. I just can't say. And about some details, uh, it says that even a little bit change in climate would cause a huge impact to the whole world. And he made an example of especially in summer the ice sheets would melt. But I got a little bit of question here actually, because he said if the ice sheets melt, the earth would be darker, and it would seek more energy. Um, and so the seawater will be warmer, and that will have many other impacts. And may I ask a question? Why the Earth will be darker if the ice sheets melt?
So what that is referring to is that so snow and ice are light, right? So they're white, and they have a blue color as well. So when that melts off, um, underneath you have darker and darker soils, and so that simply, just if you think about absorption of energy and reflection, so it's that radiative forcing that we talked about in the past, that ratio is shifting for the worst that would happen. And so darker soil, right, just like we were talking about asphalt, would absorb more energy, and that's what he's referring to there. So thank you. Does anybody else want to add in more details there? Right, Carolina. So does someone want to get that? Does someone want to explain Carolina's question? So it's not that big of a point for you to understand. So for the sake of time, we're just gonna keep going. But the overall message, I think, you guys got. So who wants to do the second one? So let's have okay, let's have Monica. Go ahead.
Hear me? So the second one was like a debt calculator for the U.S. and it showed our GDP, our like government's debt, and like how much we're making off of taxes, and just a bunch of like information about our current monetary situation in the U.S. And for me, it was just really startling that like there's just so much debt and just so much money in general being circulated, and it's kind of like ridiculous. And I saw that like for student loans, which is something that we're all gonna have to deal with soon. There's like a billion or a trillion. I don't remember exactly, but it's like a ridiculous amount of money just to get an education. And so like what we were talking about in the article for last night's homework, it's just like there's just so much more money being pumped into the system.
Thank you. Yes. So Alex, what did we see in the third? So we can't hear you if you're talking to us. Your mic is unmuted, but for some reason we can't hear you. And it could be for reasons that other students have mentioned. Right, so Christopher is offering you that one special option that you may want to choose. Christopher, you've got a good background there. It's white. You have a white wall, so you should just, have like a little dancing poster that you put up, and it'll be really well seen with your background. So maybe like neon. Yeah, vibrant pink would be lovely. Okay, Alex, did you rejoin? We still can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so do you want me to do the third video?
Yes, please tell people who weren't able to see it what you saw.
So I saw person talking about and explaining how right now the board's divided. First, like we're raised into like be individual and compete with each other, and then there's also like a class division between the top 1% and the 99%, and there's very little focus and moral values dedicated to community and what we can do together. And he says we can't, as long as we are focused on consumption, right, and like using things instead of creating, we can't really become a community because the under moral is there's always somebody that can pay somebody else to do the same thing, and the only way to build a community and intimacy is not through like consuming together, but creating together and just that was really breathtaking because I think that goes to the point that in order to change like our habits and our consumption and like climate, we have to work together. We can't just rely on our government, uh, just regulations or things. We have to like work on it together, educate together, and then create solutions and be part of the solution. You know, even changing a habit, if half of the world's population change their habits just as slightly, but it would be a much greater effect than any corporation can do nowadays. So that's very important.
Thank you. Excellent summary there. So, all right, you guys, go ahead and go in order of your names. You can handle this. Yeah, one after the other. Please, I have faith in you. So go for it, and yeah, and then we have, so you can say maybe a little bit more than usual, like 30 seconds more, because we have a little bit more time.
Should I go again?
You should go again. Yes.
Should I discuss videos in general or just
now? So now you guys are saying your thoughts, like
okay.
What is most appealing to you, what sparked, other connection of the dots, that sort of thing. So now it's your personal.
Well, the two greatest details that interested me most was the fact that the guy in the TED Talk said that if we started in 2005, we could have just continued with 3% reduction, and then if we start next year, right, global, we have to reduce our CO2 emissions by 6% to stabilize our Earth energy imbalance by the end of the century. And the thing that shocked me is even if it was like hard science behind this, and there's various reports like AS5 report written right for governments and policies, nothing's changing. Nothing's getting started. We're still using the same things. We're still using the same fuel sources we've been using during the Cold War. But like it's very similar. Nothing has really advanced drastically in so many years, and we've come to the conclusion that we're if we don't start soon, and we most likely won't until it's the very end, it's too late. It's gonna be a horrid place to live in like next century because it's, as he said, once you step over that line, it escalates out of control by itself. So the oceans release more gas as it warms up. That released gas even warms it up even more, and then there's even more gas released, and it's like a out of control cycle. And we as humans won't be able to control that. We can't even control ourselves now. So what are we going to do once this starts? We're just going to be victims of our own actions. And the second detail that Christopher brought up is the fact that we owed in 1980, I think, I don't know, but we owe so much more money now than we did 30 years ago. It's just incredible, and the debt's going to rise. And I'm wondering, how high can that go before something happens? I mean, there's got to be a limit. I mean, that's what kind of surprised me. Is just, and also interesting fact: how come there's only the U.S. workforce is only 148 million, but the population is 320 million?
What's going on there? Is your question, right?
Yeah, like why is there such like that doesn't add up? There's 170 million people. Like, is that just like unofficial work, or is it like foreign, or I don't know, just
yeah? So if we're talking about
children or retired people,
that's right. So it's both. It's two parts. One is those people who are young, who are kids, and then those people that are old,
Mhm.
who have retired. But what you may be surprised is that so many people are unemployed. So many people, this is really not even widely reported, how many people have no jobs. It's like, we don't really report how many homes have been foreclosed, how many homes have, are just standing there, the families have been kicked out. Those sorts of things you know, are not something that you will find reported on the news. And um, so that's what that's pointing to. So yes, you have the natural part about people just not being a part of the workforce naturally, but I would say a huge part of that difference is the fact that people have been fired, laid off, um, and are just in between jobs. And it's so the unemployment situation is a lot worse than we imagine, and we just don't, it's not talked about. So there wouldn't be um, backlash, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That's it. I don't have anything else.
I didn't get to watch the videos, because my internet wasn't working, so I kind of missed it. So if someone else wants to go ahead.
Right. So I guess I'll go ahead then.
Go for it.
You guys hear me? Does it work?
It's working.
All right. So, well, the three videos were quite informative. The first one was, it's really amazing after watching the first video how we're not actually doing anything. Like Alex said, like we're like sweeping under the rug a problem which is just gonna like gobble us up at some point. So 3% in 2005, 6% now, 10% in 15 years. It's just growing bigger, and we're not doing anything about it. And I mean, he's talking about his grandchildren and his children, but the problems which we're facing, they're gonna face us. Like when we're older, we're gonna have to solve these, and it's kind of scary. From the second link, what I found was really shocking, as well as the unemployment rate growing and all those other things, is our energy, where our energy outputs are. So, like, where do we derive our energies? And I noticed that it was only fossil fuels, like the solar energy and renewables are negligible, like from the sources of energy. And after watching the first video, that was really shocking. It shows that we're really not doing anything to stop our impacts. And the third video, well, it talked a little bit about, I guess it's the same guy who wrote the second article for homework. And it was, I mean, I had some disagreeing points with him from the readings. And but I can see where he's going, that we really need a society which has more love, which is unified in a single cause. And I guess that's really the solution for climate change and what was talked about in the first video. And yeah, I guess that's it.
Okay, Chloe wrote.
Want me to go ahead and go, or wait a few minutes to read Chloe's?
Yeah, let's wait like a minute and then just read her. Yeah, read what she posted. Okay, go ahead.
Alright, so the first video, I guess what I thought was amazing was how much land 5 meters would take away from like Florida. And I also thought the exponential growth rate of how much we would have to reduce our fossil fuel emissions in order to restore the climate within like 100 years or something was amazing. I mean, I think it was like 2005, it was like 3%. Next year, it'd be like 6%, and 10 years from now, 15%. That's just insane. We haven't even started yet. So that's definitely going to be a fun thing to do. For the U.S. national debt thing, I just thought it was interesting about the ratio between those who are self-employed versus those who are just regular employed, I guess. The ratio, I thought it would be a little higher for self-employed. Just thinking about how many businesses you drive by every day and see. And of course, the national debt was just staggering. And I went back and read into some of the history of the exponential growth of our national debt in recent years and different events, documents that have significantly increased it. And it's a big problem. And for the third video, I just liked how he talked about, love and forgiveness, I guess. And, how he had a positive outlook. I found his reading was a little extreme, or maybe not extreme, but I didn't agree with everything he said. But I liked how, like, I'd never really thought of this, but like you can't have the 99% turn around the 1%, turn against the 1%, because then the 99% will just form a new 1%. It's like, I've heard this term, like the gravitational law of money, where money just will, no matter what circumstance, unless it's completely accumulate. So I just thought that was interesting, and that's pretty much all I have to say.
So can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
All right. For the first video, I thought it was really heartfelt the way he wanted to fix the world for the ones he loved. Like, love is a really powerful thing, and just seeing it motivate people to want to change, seeing it motivate people to want a different, better place in the future, is just really it's a really heartfelt message for me. And then I'm gonna, for the second video, for the second link, I saw the national debt 2 years ago. It was 17 trillion, and I just thought it's not gonna move much from there. 2 years later, we're at 18 trillion. So that was really shocking. And then just seeing the 1980, how it was at $900 billion, that was the debt we accumulated over, what, 200 years? About 200 years? And then 35 years later, we have $17 trillion on top of that. So that's just astonishing. And then for the third video, the sense of community, that's just really powerful thing. It ties back into this whole love, and we have to care about each other, and we should work together as one big community to fix this issue. And yeah, that's all I have to say.
Cristobal, if you're talking, I don't think we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Definitely can hear you. Oh yeah.
Okay. So I was really I like the first video because I didn't imagine that the NASA uses censorship to uses censorship. It's incredible. I think they even deleted a sentence of their mission description. So I wonder why they want to hide evidences of climate change. And about the third video, I totally agree with the fact that nowadays we can buy everything, and we don't know what we buy exactly. So we're disconnected to reality, and there is no community anymore. So I think the challenge is to find a way to combine our modern comfort and technologies with better values, because we can't just live like people of Occupy Wall Street do, like in the video, in the street. But we also can't continue like this and just sit and do nothing. So it will be hard to change people's mind, I think.
Evan, we can't hear you if you're talking.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So I found the first two videos very shocking, of course. I found it sad that we could lose a lot of species in the first video, and I guess it's immoral to kind of dump that on our children in the future. But the video that resonated with me the most was the third one, actually, especially the part about us lacking community today in this generation. I've been living in my neighborhood for about two years now, and I realize that I don't know my neighbors at all, and that's really frightening. So yeah, I think it's really important that we reestablish that old tradition, and just connect with the people around us, and yeah, form bonds. And yeah, those are my thoughts. Thanks.
All right, Lily wrote. And Saad also wrote after Lily.
Is it alright if I go?
I'm still reading, so give me 15 seconds. Go ahead.
So for the first video, I thought it was really amazing that we're spending all of this money on figuring out like what's happening on other planets instead of trying to focus in on like preventing that on our planet. Like what he said with Venus, like that could happen to us if we don't like curb back all of our CO2 emissions and things like that. But we're not doing anything about it. Instead, we're just going to space and looking at it. And that's important research too. But I think that right now it's most important to like figure out what's going on with our planet and making it a habitable place for future generations. And I kind of already said what I thought about the second link. So for the third one, I thought what he said was really true about how like you don't know where your products come from. Like I don't know the farmer that grew my food at my house. I don't know the person who made like half the things I have. So I think that's really startling because before we had these like tight knit communities and everyone had their own special profession, and like you go to a blacksmith and you get your medals and you knew the blacksmith personally. That was a while ago, but still. So yeah, I think that's really startling. And I too don't know half my neighbors, even though I've lived here for a while.
I guess I'll go. Can everyone hear me? Okay, so the two things that most struck me were the second article about steady state economy and the first video. The article, I had never really thought too much actually about climate change and economy. Seems like it's just the economy's nature, human nature, to keep the economy growing constantly, but it should seem like a fairly obvious point that we can't grow forever. I had just never really thought about it before. The second article makes it clear that we will reach a point where if we grow any further, then the economy may collapse and the environment will be destroyed. It's slowly being destroyed now, but we can, stop global warming and still improve the economy for a while yet. I just never really thought about it too much in context. The first video struck me mostly because of some facts and some comparisons that he made. Most specifically, a few of you mentioned it before, how if we had started to stop global warming in 2005, we would only require 5% reduction in carbon emissions, but then in 10 years, 15%. It's always, as they say, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And another thing that struck me about his video was the comparison to the amount of energy that we were absorbing to the Hiroshima nuclear bomb. I mean, 400,000 nuclear bombs equivalent released every day. That's a lot of energy, and it will require a lot of work and cleanup to reduce the amount of heat that we're producing and is causing global warming. It's all scary, but we need to work towards reduction in carbon dioxide emissions and other greenhouse gas emissions in order to save the planet and our economy.
So it's my turn, right? Yeah, seems yes. I just think because I cannot see the third video, so I just talked about the first one and the second one. About the first one, I missed the part that I really respected the speaker and about his courage and his clear explanation about what exactly is happening to the climate and to the earth. And he emphasized the cost, and I really want to share with you about some information I got about the cost for the climate change. And it seems that take example of RCP 2.6, the fossil fuels usage must be diminished by 25% according to compare to the so-called standard condition, use the SRES model, and the usage of the bioresources must be doubled. And it need extra investment of 7,000 to 9,000 billion dollars, and that is a huge cost. I mean, just in the century. And about the second one, I found there is energy output at the bottom of the page, and I didn't pay much attention about the depths, but I paid a lot of attention to the energy, and I found it goes really fast. And the United States is just in the second position internationally about the energy consumption, and the data is really shocking for me. Yeah, thank you.
So I believe she was having internet problems. Yay, I don't know if you're there, but if you are speaking, we can't hear you. She did post her thoughts. Let's see. Okay, there we go. That's right. Yes. All right. So just read what she had to say. And finally, yes, go ahead. So our final person, I believe you know who you are. Oh, I don't see or hear anything. Stop there. So yeah, thank you for your discussion and your thoughts and your attention.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so since I didn't watch the third video, I'm going to talk about the first two videos.
Right.
I think that although the speaker today is not as funny as the previous ones, but he is a brave person and he still insists helping all the people to prevent the climate change. He is talking about the seriousness of the climate change. It sounds a little bit similar to the AR5 assessment. But I really respect him because he has the courage to talk to all people about the problems. For details, the relation between ocean and CO2 sounds right, and it really thrills me because it could be a vicious circle and it can cause the climate change worse. I hope more people can be as brave as the speaker and talk about the issue, climate change issue. Okay, so the second link is about the national debt in US. I saw all kinds of debt are increasing in a high constant rate, though I don't know how it increases at a constant rate. And I'm also surprised about the numbers of bankruptcies, living in poverty, and without insurance. That's it.
Thank you. Yes. Christian, ask your question.
I was wondering about the first video. Do like when scientists talk about this kind of thing, do they get like silenced pretty frequently? Because like I don't know, it sounds against the First Amendment to me.
Right. Yeah. It depends on who's above them, and that's kind of how it goes. It depends. Yeah, if you're one thing is doing science at an institution like Stanford. I mean, at a university. I don't mean just Stanford, but and another thing is getting the science to the people. That's a totally different walk of fire. Like here, it's like, you're in your little lab, like doing your thing. I mean, it's not like that, but you are in your own environment. And then that requires you to interact with a completely different set of people um, that can be the furthest from this, um, you know, the science. So that's always been a problem, and sometimes it can be pretty intense. Yeah, but we can talk more about that when you come here.
All right.
So yeah. Carolina, go ahead.
So, like, when we read scientific papers, they have like really complex language, and how can a scientist want to like communicate his findings with the people if he writes in such like an accessible language?
Yeah, you're gonna have to ask people who write like that. I have fought against that personally. It's the way things are. It's the way things have been established. And I've talked about this before. So that's a huge problem. The science is for scientists. It's like within that world. So the science circulates, like other scientists know what scientists are doing, and it's all like here, inside the circle. I just love that analogy. I'll use it for everything. And then not only is it impossible to like get the science into like media, and it's really difficult, and and especially into policy, but then the way that science is structured, so it's like you're writing, it's like if you're, gosh, what is a good example? It's its own language, and it's impossible to read, and in fact it takes years to actually understand all of that and feel confident, and then write that way. And so that is a big problem. What's happening now is, so you basically, as a scientist, the way that you're recognized is also through a set system. And the way you get recognized is by publishing your research. So you do your research, and then you have to publish it. And then you publish it in journals. And the journals, again, have it's like how popular the journal is, how powerful it is. But once again, it has nothing to do with reaching the public. And so what they're doing now is a system called open access. So only like a handful of universities that are super wealthy and have a lot of money can basically pay a really big fee when you publish your paper, and then that paper is accessible to anyone who wants to search for it. Mind you, 99.9% of the papers are not accessible to the public. So journals are closed organizations. So you publish, isn't that ironic? You publish in the journal, you get your brownie points or your recognition, but the journal is closed for non-members. So that's the current state of that system that's kind of like in the circle inside the bubble. And so it's like a club. It really is. But now they're trying to do open access. And so my work is published open access. So that was something that was important to me. And yeah, the language is still hard to understand sometimes. And so it's a work in progress. And so it's really important to get like the info in the way that I'm giving it to you, in the form of videos and something that's much simpler. And it doesn't mean there's less content there. It just means that it's actually easily digestible. You don't need to know technical terms to get the gravity of the material. So yeah, great question. So yeah, I think we're good. I'll see you guys tomorrow. And I'm assuming you guys will be flying into Stanford this coming weekend. Is that what you guys are going to be doing? Isn't that crazy that it's been already so long? Like that's already coming up. Like I feel like we just started. You're driving, Christopher, from LA, right? So yeah, the LA people are driving up, which is like going to be a really nice drive, right? If you take the 101. 13-hour flight. Oh my gosh, that's really long. Is it a direct? Yeah, and then China, of course. Is it a direct flight? Or is it layovers? Yeah, direct flight. Yeah. Make sure to Maui. That's wonderful. When you guys that are on long flights, so I fly those regularly. Just make sure to not feel bad about getting up. Like if you're sandwiched in the middle, make sure to walk and make sure to have circulation, like blood flow, because that will actually minimize like the jet lag that you later experience. So be the person to get up and like walk the hallway and then kind of hang out and do stretches in the back, like by the bathrooms. It sounds funny, but it's really important because that'll really help with your acclimatization to here. So yeah, definitely do that. Yeah. So all right, well, we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow. All right. Have a good evening, morning, day, wherever you are. Bye.